Billy and Timmy are back with their apples, and this time they have some friends here too. Billy has an apple and he wants to get it to Timmy. So he passes it down the line of his friends. One by one, they pass the apple to Timmy. Passing the apple one by one down the line gets it to Timmy, but it's a slow way to do it. Billy wants a faster way to get the apple to Timmy. So he throws the apple to Janelle, who then throws it to Timmy. They skip parts of the line. This goes a lot faster than passing it one by one.
So Billy and Timmy and their friends are like an axon, and the apple represents the action potential. In the picture on the left, we have continuous conduction. This is when they pass the apple down the line one by one. So remember that the gates in the axon are voltage regulated. So a gate opens when the voltage nearby goes up to at least -55. In continuous conduction, you move down the entire axon, raising the voltage bit by bit. So right here, you can see the sodium going in, the potassium going out. We're having an action potential. When the sodium comes in, the voltage raises. So then that stimulates an action potential in the very next section of the neuron, which stimulates an action potential in the very next section. So you're moving the action potential this way, and if you line these up, you can see that it's just moving bit by bit down the axon. This will move the action potential down the axon, but this is a slow way to do it. Most of your neurons have myelin. And if they have myelin, they can have saltatory conduction. Saltatory means jump. Salt means jump. So in this case, the action potential jumps along the axon. You have cells that wrap around the axon. They can be called Schwann cells or neurolimocytes. So these are cells that wrap around the axon. There's gaps between the cells. These gaps between them are the nodes. They can be called nodes of Ranvier, or they can be called neurofibril node. Wherever the Schwann cell is, it's covering up the axon. So you can't have ions move in and out. It's only in the nodes where the ions are able to get in and out. So this means you can only have action potentials in the nodes. So if we look at this, here we have an action potential. You can see the sodium going in, the potassium going out. Once the sodium is in, it diffuses. So this part shows sodium diffusing. So sodium will diffuse under the Schwann cell. It then gets over here and it raises the voltage. And as long as it raises it to at least negative 55, then we have an action potential in the next node. And again, the sodium comes in and it diffuses under the cell. That increases the voltage of the next node, and it has an action potential. So we're still moving the action potential this direction, but we're skipping large sections of the axon. You only have the action potential in small areas, the nodes. So this was like when Timmy threw the apple to Janelle, or I'm sorry, Billy threw the apple to Janelle, and then she threw it to Billy. So the action potential jumps from node to node. And this is much faster. So to sum up saltatory conduction, you have an action potential in a node. Sodium comes in, and it diffuses under the cell, that Schwann cell or neurolimocyte, to the next node, where it raises the voltage and stimulates those gates to open. And then an action potential occurs in that node. So it's called saltatory. Salt means jump because it appears that the action potential jumps node to node. And this is by far the much faster way to send an action potential down an axon. There is a disease in which you lose the ability to do saltatory conduction. So here you can see the normal nerve has its myelin, which remember is composed of those Schwann cells or neurolimocytes. In the bottom one, you can see that you're missing that. The cells have been destroyed. And so this axon loses its myelin. So it can no longer do saltatory conduction. And so transmitting action potentials becomes very slow. And this disease is multiple sclerosis. Or called MS for short. This is an autoimmune disease. So autoimmune is when your immune system messes up and attacks your own cells. Your immune system is only supposed to attack pathogens that are making you sick. But in autoimmune, it messes up and it attacks your own cells. So it's the immune system that is destroying these cells. And that's why one of the symptoms of MS is very slow movement, because it takes a long time to get that action potential down the motor neurons and secrete the acetylcholine onto the muscles. So the responses are very slow.